Where do we begin? We never do. We awaken in the middle of the river, being carried along by the sins, short-sighted innovations, and myopic solutions of those who came before us. We are in a rush to prove our worth. Haste makes waste, and we are swimming in the waste of 1,000 good intentions. There is no beginning for you or I. Circumspect is the first virtue for a descendant, but too often we consider ourselves self-begotten innovators, while we repeat the successes of others as if we were the first to discover them, not realizing that every success has a footnote with a long list of unintended consequences, compromises, hidden costs, and Machiavellian manipulations to make that success possible. An entropy-producing dynamo of insanity, we are robot arms in a factory of planned obsolescence, the purgatory industrial complex. Refusing to acknowledge biology, ethics, cause and effect, we keep the cycle going because it works. So when I was still in India, I had hatched out a plan to get 3 things: a workshop, a website, and a weekly schedule. I've been working on the idea of those 3 things ever since. This was over 2 years ago. And the workshop idea is basically just my little nook, my little corner where I can work on my video projects and computer-based stuff. So in India, it morphed a few times. I had this office when I was in Noida. I had this little desk when I was in Delhi for the first few months. Allie came along and helped us redesign it much better with her design eye. We ended up having a whole desk area that me and Vipul was working with us there, interning with us for a while there. And so we had much more room. The best version of my India setup was after Allie had helped design the room, and we got this L-shaped desk. So that was just, it was great. I could just kind of turn and focus on the different tasks, and had, you know, bookshelf right there. That was really helpful. Since we gotten back to America from India, my desk workspace area has gone through many evolutions. So it actually started over in that corner where our bed is now, and then finally it's gotten over here. And this is the best I felt since I was in India, when we had that little L-shaped desk. So I bring all this up just to kind of reiterate that point that we're trying to make, that a lot of times forward progress seems to be stalled because you end up having to repeat the same thing. You have to move, you know, you have to reset up your entire office space. You start a new job and it seems like you're starting from square one, because this job, it's the same type of job, but they have totally different processes and procedures. We keep coming back to remind ourselves, at least, the next step is always important, more important than the last one, even if that next step means going backwards. And another thing I've kind of been feeling this week, have gotten into a better rhythm with the running thing. Every morning does not feel great doing that running. I feel pretty beat and destroyed after some of them. But it has been very good for me mentally, waking up that early in the morning, clearing my head, being able just to run and shut my brain off. But sometimes, in addition, you know, I've talked about hitting obstacles in this process of building a better me, of starting over, of dealing with mental health issues or physical health, or starting a new venture. You know, in that process, you hit obstacles and there are detours. But there's also another thing I've noticed, and that's kind of like this quicksand feeling. The best story I can think of to kind of illustrate the way I've felt this week, and the way that I feel a lot of times in my struggle to build a better me. And sometimes it's not even just about building a better me, it's just getting the stuff done you need to get done in your life to keep up with the river, so to speak. As you're getting dragged along, it doesn't feel like you ever make any progress, and you're just getting carried along. There was one time a surfer magazine journalist wrote about this time. He'd just taken a flight. The surf was up. He was at a hotel. He grabs his board, runs out into the surf. He's not thinking about anything really. He's just trying to get, you know, 1 or 2 waves before the sun sets. He paddles for his first wave, and he feels like there's a cinder block tied to the back of his board, and he's just not catching the wave. So he flips a board over, because on surfboards, the way they work, these are these things called fins. And back in the day, they'd often put foam blocks between these fins so that the fins wouldn't break in transit, you know, the surfboard getting thrown around into the plane or whatever. So he flipped it over thinking maybe he left one of these foam blocks in there, didn't see anything. You know, he's still distracted because he's just thinking about the waves, you know. So he flips it back over, paddles for another wave, same thing happens. And so he flips it back over again and looks, and he'd forgotten that he had this clear packing tape that was being used to keep the foam blocks there. So he pulled the foam blocks out, but forgot to pull out the clear packing tape, and it escaped his notice. He literally was paddling with something holding him back, so he couldn't actually get into the wave. And that feeling, if you haven't surfed before, what you have to do, you have to match your speed as much as you can, just by the power of your arms, with the wave so that you can actually stand up and force your way down the wave. Like in the river analogy, it would almost be like, you know you have to keep up, but everyone seems to be going past you. It's almost like you're on a treadmill. You know, you can't keep up with the flow of traffic no matter what you do. You're just being pulled back and everyone else is going ahead of you. That kind of gets the way I feel at least once a week since we started this whole endeavor. It feels like no matter what I'm doing, I'm just running in place and everyone's getting past me. And for me, I think what that clear packing tape really is my brain. It's the kind of things that I'm telling myself. Oh, this is a piece of crap. It's this kind of just negative critic that's in my brain. I've talked about that French phrase, l'appel du vide, you know, the call of the void, that feeling that you just are going to fall anyway, so what's the point? And at a certain point, you just have to rip the packing tape off of the fins. You cannot allow that voice to keep you from doing what needs to be done. It might not work. You might not be able to keep up with everyone else, but you're certainly not going to be able to keep up with everyone else if you're carrying this baggage, if you have something there that's not supposed to be there. And so for me this week, it's just been that voice. Try to shut it up to some degree. And honestly, it's physical activity. The running is helping. Just being able to shut off and do something else. Doing this podcast with my buddy Judah, this reverse redaction podcast. Conversation with people that gets me outside of myself. Some of this stuff is really helping. So I wanted to turn the question to you. What's helping you this week to build a better you? What's helping you this week kind of silence that voice that says, what's the point of any of it? I'm not going to make it any further anyway. So do let me know. Until next time, stay strong, stay glorious, keep going. And if you're having a hard time doing any of that, just hang on until you can as we continue building a better me. Thank you very much.